Coco Gauff just destroyed Karolina Muchova 6-1, 6-1, and made it look easy. Every great tennis player has a turning point in their development when they begin to own the game rather than just learn it. Watching her defeat Karolina Muchova 6-1, 6-1 in the Miami Open semifinals on Thursday felt like one of those moments for Coco Gauff, though she would likely dispute that interpretation. It wasn't as simple as the score indicated, in her opinion. She would be forthright about the first game she lost due to a double fault, and instead of focusing on the dominance of the score, she would highlight the 89 minutes needed to finish the game. One of her more disarming traits is her honesty. The game took place at Miami Gardens, Hard Rock Stadium, which is only a short drive from Gauff's childhood home of Delray Beach. The home court atmosphere was evident in a way that isn't always captured on television. There's something reassuring about Gauff's statement that she alternates between sleeping at her parents' house and her own, depending on how late matches end. Her parents live closer to the venue. Here is a two-time Grand Slam champion who, in a very real sense, is still a child, playing tennis close to home, texting her parents about logistics, and navigating a tournament that just so happens to be nearby. What she's doing is not diminished by it. It gives it a more authentic feel. Against Muchova, Gauff dropped serve right away, giving up the first game on a double fault before winning 10 straight. 10. Muchova, who had defeated a rising opponent in the quarterfinals and won the championship in Doha earlier this season, was unable to establish a presence. She made 37 unintentional mistakes during the game, which is partially indicative of Gauff's style of play, which put her opponent in situations with no clear way out. When a player of Muchova's caliber makes that many errors, it usually indicates that the opposition is applying pressure. The location of Gauff less than 3 weeks ago is noteworthy. Due to what she called a scary left arm injury, she had to withdraw from her third-round match at Indian Wells. In professional tennis, the nature of these issues is always unpredictable. You never know the extent of the damage until you attempt to play again. The fact that she came back to compete here, made it through 4 three-set matches prior to the semifinal, and then performed so effectively against Muchova suggests either incredible perseverance or incredible recuperation. Most likely a mix of the two. This week, the New York Times revealed that Gauff has been struggling with what she called imposter syndrome, a feeling that her tennis skills don't quite match the reputation that surrounds her and that she could be discovered. A person who has won the US Open and the French Open and made it to a Miami final for the first time makes this startling admission. However, if you look closely, it's also a part of a pattern with Gauff. Compared to athletes who expend energy feigning certainty they don't feel, she tends to produce a more grounded athlete by processing doubt openly rather than burying it. It's still not entirely clear if that openness will eventually turn into a vulnerability under actual pressure, like the kind that arises in a major final against a player like Aryna Sabalenka. Because Sabalenka is the current barrier, and she is very strong. This year, the world number 1 has won 17 out of 18 matches, won titles in Indian Wells and Brisbane, and has the kind of elite momentum that makes a straight sets final seem conceivable. She said she anticipates a lot of rallies, a lot of emotions, a lot of aggression, a lot of fun in the forthcoming final against Gauff. That is the language of a person who enjoys the occasion rather than is afraid of it. In their 12 career encounters, the two players have each won 6 times. Sabalenka's most recent victory came at the 2024 WTA Finals. There are real stakes and a real texture to this rivalry. By making it to the final, Gauff will also move up to 3rd place in the world rankings the following week, surpassing former world number 1 Iga Swiatek, whose Miami tournament ended earlier and whose subsequent breakup with coach Wim Fissette indicated some internal strife. After years of being structured around Swiatek's obvious dominance, the women's game is subtly evolving into something more competitive and fascinating. Gauff is a part of that change, even though it's possible that she hasn't realized how important she is to the discussion. Since Serena Williams made it to the Miami women's semifinals in 2004, the year Coco Gauff was born, she became the youngest American to do so. That analogy seems like something a sports writer would make up if it weren't true. It's difficult to ignore how skillfully it presents a career that has progressed from the start as though it knew where it was headed. Regardless of the outcome, Saturday's final against Sabalenka will be another chapter in that tale. The scoreboard didn't lie, but it didn't tell the whole truth either. 6-1, 6-1. Numbers that looked almost casual, like something scribbled quickly and forgotten. But what unfolded on the court that day was anything but casual. It was a statement, sharp, controlled, and impossible to ignore. Coco stood at the baseline, bouncing lightly on her toes as if the match had just begun, not ended. Across the net, Karolina had barely time to process what had happened. Points hadn't just been lost. They had been taken, seized with a kind of quiet authority that left no room for doubt. From the very first game, there was a shift in the air. Coco wasn't just playing well.
She was locked in.
Her movement was electric, each step precise, each recovery impossibly quick. Balls that should have been winners came back with interest, spinning deeper, faster, sharper. Karolina, known for her elegance and variety, tried to disrupt the rhythm, mixing slices, changing pace, approaching the net. But nothing stuck. Every pattern she built, Coco unraveled. Every opening she saw, Coco closed. It wasn't power alone. It was clarity. There's a moment in sport when an athlete stops thinking and starts seeing, when the game slows down, when decisions become instinctive, when execution feels inevitable. Coco was in that space now, where everything aligned. She returned serve like she had read the script in advance. She attacked short balls with conviction. She defended like she refused to lose a single rally. Even in a match, she was already dominating. 6-1. The first set slipped away almost unnoticed. The crowd murmured, not out of boredom, but disbelief. This wasn't supposed to be easy. Not against a player like Karolina. Not at this level. But Coco didn't react. No fist pumps, no loud declarations. Just a quiet walk to her chair, a sip of water, eyes focused somewhere far beyond the court. Because she knew something the scoreboard didn't. It wasn't over. Great performances,